Welcome back to Talk TV. It is Motorsport for your Friday night. I'm Louise.
And I'm back.
I know, don't ever leave me again, Richard. Don't do it to me.
Good to be back. I'm Richard. Welcome to tonight's Talk TV. Another big show lined up for Motorsport for your Friday night, Lou.
Yes, it is. It's another big show, and I'm glad you're here to do it with me, because last week, oh God, let's not talk about it.
Tonight we're taking a look at some off-road racing that was up at Sedan on the weekend. Looking forward to taking in some of that action, not something we featured this year. We'll be joined in the studio by Ian Williams from the AKA to talk a bit about the state of play in karting at the moment in South Australia. A to Z of Motorsport is TV Testing this week.
Yes, testing is, again, another crucial part of motorsport, and where would we be without it?
Yes, we'll talk about how the teams pound the pavement in search of lap times and trying to develop Opal Millers, much like that one there. We'll also take a look back at the Lexmark Indy 300 on the weekend, and we've got a bit of inside news up there. It was a terrific weekend. And we also take in the launch of the 2004-2005 SA360 Sprintcar Championships that was held down at Revolution Racegear last weekend.
Yeah, that's really exciting. I mean, again, you've got, even though all the main series circuits are starting to close up, you've got all the Speedway and sprint cars all coming in. So although it is kind of sad all the series are, ending and all the silly seasons starting, well, you've still got another series starting up. So it's all very, very exciting.
Now here, you had fun last week.
Oh, yeah, it was all right. With how many massives? Oh, my God. I think I set a record for repeated words last week, but it's okay. I'm trying not to have a repeated word this week.
It's good. Well, just to let you know, I had a blast on the Gold Coast. We're up there with Team BRM in the final round of the Australian F3 Series, which we won. Well done to Adelaide's Team BRM, and I've been working on the 10 as well.
Oh, I'm very impressed, Richard. Very impressed. But I'm happy you're back here, so it's good.
Good. Well, on the weekend, the team headed out to Sedan up north of Adelaide to find out a bit more about off-road racing for a special event.
Now, it was women's and juniors event only, so you had the women out there giving it all and the juniors coming up through the ranks. It was exciting to see all the juniors that will possibly be the next big names in off-road and rally.
Of course, there's some big events in Australian off-road racing, much like the Australian Safari Rally, which regularly draws some big names, like Peter Brock, for example, to it. So it's a growing sport and it's very popular, and of course the World Championship of off-road racing, I guess, is the Paris to Dakar Rally.
Well, exactly. It's a massive round. And I mean, there you go, my favourite word, massive. Sorry, I'm going to try and stop it. But let's have a look now at everything from Sedan on the weekend. We got the women and juniors going out and having a good go. And it was very, very interesting. Let's have a look.
The end of the competitive off-road season was reserved exclusively for the ladies and juniors for the Denise Gosden Memorial Enduro. Dry, comfortable conditions greeted competitors on both days of the weekend as they got ready for the nearly 150 kilometres of competitive driving ahead of them. Saturday went off almost without a hitch, only one retirement from Connor and John Smith in the first 3-lap stint with terminal damage to the crown wheel and pinion that would see them unable to continue on Sunday. The Leanne Walker and Julie Burridge pairing were first out and first home, leading Brenda Tranter and Sam Cantanzariti in the 318 machine, Belinda Francombe and Leanne Collins in 308, James and Mark Anderson in 251, and the 413 True Wheeler four-wheeler. The Walker and Burridge pairing set the pace of the weekend, starting Saturday with the best time of 6 minutes 33 seconds over the approximately 10 kilometre short course. Some 25 seconds faster than second place, Walker looked forward to Sunday's racing.
I think I'm doing around 6:30 at the moment, but I think a few of the others, a couple of the girls it's their first drive, so they're sort of around the 7-8 minute mark. But yeah, it's good. I like going fast.
Okay, Julie, your role in the car is navigator. How is that compared to driving, and what does that involve when you're out on the track?
Well, it depends on your driver. Your role can vary from actually giving them either hand signals or talking to them through an intercom and giving them directions, or just sitting there and watching gauges, rear view mirrors, just giving them a bit of encouragement along the way. Every drive is different. So with Leanne, it's just keeping an eye on if anything's behind us, telling her if there's a car in front of us, who it is, because I know who they are. Just taking it easy in some corners if she looks like she's getting a bit ragged, but on the whole, yeah, I sort of just get a pretty free ride, really.
Yeah, so as long as everything's going okay, you've got a pretty easy job.
Yeah, it can get pretty tense in there sometimes, depending on your driver, and yeah, but on the most, you sort of work together and try and make it as easy for the driver because they're doing the better job, so yeah.
Now, I was talking to your mum before. You've been involved since you're about 12 in the sport. Tell us about that.
Yep, been racing since I was 14. We got involved in the sport actually when I was 10. Yeah, it's been really good.
Okay. Tell us about some of the big events you've been in during that time. Or
we've actually raced up in Fink 10 times. We've also done Griffith this year. Also Mildura, the national rounds. Colin just got back last weekend from Goondiwindi, did pretty good up there, but I missed out unfortunately. But yeah, we've done a few of the national rounds and most of the state rounds as well over those 10-12 years.
How do those events compare to coming back and doing this sort of Paddle Puff Derby, the ladies event today?
Derby. Yeah, it's a lot different. It's a lot more relaxed, casual. Everyone's just out here to have a good time. Yeah, no sheep stations or anything, so it's pretty good. It's comfortable.
Okay, tell us about the car that you've got entered as well. All the cars are pretty similar.
Yeah, this one's actually about 12 years old. It's had a Volkswagen in it, it's had a Toyota in it, now it's got the 3.5 Mitzi in it. Also a Renault gearbox. That's all been together for the last 2 years, so yeah, everything's been running really well for Cole and the motor and that, so yeah, it's been good.
The order remained unchanged after the middle stint of the Enduro, making up laps 4 to 8 of the event. Times were, however, close, with under a minute between race times and seconds in it in some cases. This prompted getting everything tuned just right and stepping the driving up a notch for the final stint of the Enduro. Major improvement for this event was Tranter and Cantanzariti, who are now under 20 seconds from the Flying Walkers lap times. This would certainly secure Tranter and Cantanzariti's second outright and do more than enough to secure their class win, while Francombe and Collins level pegged with James and Mark Anderson. The Andersons were themselves well ahead of their class second place, Lisa Surfield and navigator Tammy Najizi. A good breeze kept the dust from cars in front under control, but as the leaders caught back up to the slower drivers, finding the course proved hard at times. Overall, it was Leanne Walker and Julie Burridge after 1 hour, 24 minutes and 50 seconds, clear by nearly 4 minutes from Brenda Tranter and Sam Cantanzariti, and Francombe and Collins in third. Class winners were Walker and Burridge, James and Mark Anderson, Tranter and Cantanzariti, and Bob Trierwheeler and the rotating Matt Trierwheeler and Eric Schmidt. Overall, the racing and meeting was run in the spirit of the final off-road competition of the year. It was a chance for some who compete less often or haven't yet at all to race in a less daunting field rather than the raging dust storm in the wake of a full field of 30 to 40 cars. Look out for off-roading next year when they make their return, or check out offroadracing.com or sayora.com for more information.
So there you go, some off-road racing action, the final meeting for 2004, and check out those websites that were at the bottom of the screen, Lou, for some more information. Offroad.com was one of them.
Yes, and go the females, woohoo!
Yeah, good way to end the season, isn't it?
Definitely, I mean, it's fantastic to see, you know, girls out there and juniors going and having a great go. I mean, it's just amazing. You've got, you know, all different type of ages, but they're all essentially females that are out there, and it's fantastic to see. They're going out, and it's not exactly an easy sport either, and like, God, it's not exactly a clean sport. So many of you think girls wouldn't be out there, but it shows you that girls really do love motorsport. It's fantastic. They went out there and had a really good meeting.
Absolutely, and it certainly shows the aspect of car control as well. Some of that onboard footage was good to see, and certainly an interesting sport, and it's good we've been able to bring it to you on Talk TV. We've got plenty more to come. Ian Williams from the AKA, the Motorsport News, Speedway, and a whole heap more after this break on Talk TV.
She walked into another dream, packed her bags as she ran into the night. She had a taste of jealousy.
And welcome back to Talk TV. It is Motorsport for your Friday night.
Some more great action from the final round of off-road racing for South Australia in 2004 up at Sedan on the weekend, and there's some spectacular onboard action there.
Definitely, I was going to say, how cozy is it tonight back together? Look, I miss this guy so much. I think we all noticed it last week. I was so nervous. It's not the same without you, Rich.
This time last week I was up on the Gold Coast.
Okay,
sitting by
I
the
want to hear
beach.
about that. Just got your back.
What a great event it was. We'll talk more in detail about the 2004 Lexmark Indy 300 down the road in the show. We'll also review the V8 supercar action, and boy, there's some controversy to come out of that.
Formula One also, actually, I was going to point out, there's been fines everywhere this weekend, and we'll talk about that very shortly. Fines here, there, and everywhere.
And we'll also talk about the Speedway season kicking off with their official launch, and we'll go to that launch and have a look at it a little bit later on in the show. Right now, though, it's time to take a look at what's going on in the very, very busy week of Motorsport News. We'll kick it off by talking about Champ Car Racing. It's on everybody's lips at the moment with David Bernard's brilliant performance at the Lexmark Indy 300 on the Gold Coast last week. There is talk that next year we'll see an Aussie on the grid full-time. A deal has been put together between Craig Gore from WPS Racing and Kevin Kalkoven, the Adelaide-born owner of the Champ Car World Series, Louise, that we will see an Aussie on the grid full-time for season 2005, which is fantastic. It won't be Bernard, though.
Well, it's very interesting. I mean, as you said, it won't be Bernard, but it's fantastic that Australians going to go over and try, have a go at the Champ Cars. Champ Cars looking very exciting. I think the controversial split from the Indy Series and the Champ Cars, and now it's all just changed around. And look, I think Champ Cars, they've got a really good resurgence happening at the moment, and it's fantastic. I mean, Service Paradise, I think everyone saw how really good that series is starting to come, and it's good for them.
Couple of names to throw around about who'll get the seat next year. We've said it won't be Bernard. It won't be Josh Hunt, who's been running Atlantics last year, this year, who's been running with the WPS colours. Couple of names to throw around. One of them, Christian Jones, son of Alan, of course, the 1980 world champion. He was at the Lexmark Indy 300 as a very interested spectator and did some time commentating Formula 3, but he was around some of the Champ Car pits. Another name is Christian Murchison, who hasn't been on the scene in Australia for a while. He's been racing in Europe, but he's favoured by Kevin Kalkoven as a potential driver for that seat. So we'll wait with bated breath for it all to happen.
Yes, very exciting. I'm going to move on to Formula One now. Big news for Formula One. I think the biggest news is that Mexico in the Cancun will be having their own track in 2006 it is. So we've still got to wait another year, but 2006. Now the track itself I think it's cost them $94.43 million, lots of money, but it's the same designer who laid out the track of Shanghai, has done the same with Mexico. So it's fantastic for them. Another great round. And look, Formula One, very excited. Now moving on from that, GPWC Holdings, there's been talk this past couple of weeks that they're going to actually bring in a new open wheeler series as like the Indy and Champ Cars for Formula One. Now, interestingly enough, GPWC Holdings has links and includes manufacturers such as BMW, Mercedes, Ferrari and Renault. So there you go. So look out. They said by 2008 they expect a sister series, so to speak, to Formula One. So it's crazy. I think it's a really big punt they're going to take, but maybe hopefully they'll get more manufacturers in.
Isn't it just all very, very interesting stuff in Formula One? Of course, that series in a bit of turmoil at the moment.
And
Now,
just another couple of seconds, sorry,
Go for
fines.
it.
I want to go about fines. Kimi Raikkonen and I think it was Nick Heifel were both given $10,000 fines
Ouch.
over the weekend because of the incident Kimi Raikkonen had with one Pablo Montoya, where everyone saw it, pit lane, great, fantastic, and Nick Heifeld from coming out of the pit lane onto the actual racetrack almost wiped out another competitor. So both of them have been slapped on the wrist, $10,000 each. So it's a lot of money to be slapped with. And now
although
moving.
it's probably just a sort of pocket change
Oh,
for
yeah,
those
never
guys.
mind.
That was a great incident though. I don't think there should be anything penalised for that. Two drivers side by side in pit lane.
Well, it brings you back to surface last year. I think Russell Ingall and I think maybe Rick Kelly or one of the Kmart cars. I'm not too sure, can't remember. But that was the same incident. Something happened. They cut each other off, and it did add a little bit of spark to it, I guess. And also, now we're going to be back $10,000 fine. And Marcus Ambrose again.
Yes.
Got in a bit of trouble. He got a bit of a fight with Rick Kelly over the weekend. Marcus Ambrose was fined $10,000 for braking after he finished the line. In just a route, I think, whatever, to Rick Kelly, because Rick Kelly was a lap car following him around and
Yep, brake tested
Yes.
him. And there was a heated press conference afterwards of the second race on Sunday between Greg Murphy and Marcus Ambrose. Of course, Murphy is Rick Kelly's teammate. Lots of interesting controversy to come out of that.
one thing I just want to bring up with that is that you've got Murphy and he's sticking up for Rick Kelly, but you've got two teammates onto one. So if you're going to go and defend for Marcus Ambrose, I guess that's the way. But it shows that Marcus Ambrose did actually do that event because Stone Brothers and Marcus Ambrose have conceded, so that's fine me, no problem. So obviously he was doing the wrong on the weekend.
Interesting stuff also on V8 Supercar news very quickly. Some shock in the paddock Friday night as Super Cheap Auto Racing split with their sponsor Super Cheap, and the car was forced to run Saturday and Sunday's races without any of the sponsorship from the business. Some contractual disputes there. Super Cheap are rumoured to be running with a Holden team for 2005. So disappointing for Stephen Ellery's outfit. They will be back next year and they're still trying to run a two-car operation. So interesting times for that team.
Yeah, it's unfortunate. I mean, Super Cheap Auto came in and they did give him quite a lot of sponsorship, but by the end of it, I think they were just waiting for the Enduro to see whether they'd get the results, because this year hasn't been good for Super Cheap Auto Racing, and that's why they pulled the sponsorship.
It hasn't been a good year, but it's been a good year for karting as we wrap up the motorsport news. There's been plenty of new competitors coming onto the ranks, and as we've featured on Talk TV this year, there's been some pretty intense racing. We're joined now in the studio by our first guest for the night, the State Vice President of the AKA for South Australia, Ian Williams. Welcome to the show.
Hello, thank you.
Good to have you on board.
Now, I mean, Ian, tell us about your involvement in the Australian Karting Association.
I've just been elected as a Vice President. My idea is to go out and look at things we've got to do, like our come and try days we've got organised for new drivers, and try and get a bit of a different perspective on the people who make the rules and do things. They've got a good job to do, but there's more can be done.
So would you say you are sort of assessing the state of play in karting at the moment in South Australia and perhaps seeing where it can go in the next couple of years? Would that be a fair description?
Yeah, as I've been involved for a long time, I think it needs someone stepped aside from the people doing what they're doing. And that I have been. I haven't been involved officially for a long time. So I thought, well, it's a good chance to come in and have a different view to the same situation. Yeah.
Now, I understand you have been competing in karting for quite a few years now. Tell us about your experience as a karter.
Yeah, I've been racing since I was very young. Probably not many people racing as long as I have in the country. When you're young, you're keen, you're excited, you do very well or do very badly, whatever. It depends on a lot of factors. And as the years go by, the enjoyment comes back into it. It's a good thing. It's quite strange. In this state, we have very large fields of older drivers. They run a class, which I'm in, for over 40 people. And that's always the largest group out there, which is amazing.
What's the state of play in karting at the moment in South Australia? Is it in a generally healthy state?
The sport goes up and down. It's not really unhealthy. We could have more numbers, but then we have a championship coming up in 2 weeks' time, and they're telling me the numbers that have entered are bigger than we've seen in the last 5 years.
Wow.
So that's unusual and totally unexpected, I've got to say.
Now, you're saying too, we were talking earlier about females getting into karting. There isn't so many females into karting at the moment, or what is the gender like at the moment with karting?
At any one time, we'd have 3 or 4 female competitors. Never a lot. I mean, our last successful driver would have been Karen Brewer 10 years ago now, and she made it to a V8 supercar. We've got a couple of young ladies who've just moved up into different car classes, Formula Fords and things, who are interested, and we've got a few young girls moving through the ranks who either want to do a career in motorsport or they want a career elsewhere, but it's very tough when you're young to figure out where you're going.
You said something very interesting about karting before the show in the green room, that there's always this progression through, and you get one crop of drivers that's in it, they move on, but there's always a new filtration, I guess, of drivers coming into the sport.
Yeah, young people, it's a good way to start motor racing because karting is a lot simpler to organise than a full-size racing car, and you can start very young. 7 or 8 years old is good. A lot of V8 drivers today, Russell Ingall is a South Australian, he was racing when he was 10 years old. By the time he gets into a car of any sort, he's got 10 years under his belt. It helps, it does show, yeah.
And I guess when you look at most of the Formula One drivers these days, they've all started in karting in their respective national countries, and it's sort of been a key thing to get them into where they are now.
Yeah, I mean, they're all very young drivers now too, so that shows, yeah.
Now, speaking earlier about the massive fields that are happening at the moment with South Australian karting, how is karting at the moment in South Australia? Is it getting really competitive, or is there a lack of numbers at the moment? How is it going as a series?
Locally, it's been interesting. 2 years ago, there were not a lot of juniors racing, but a lot of seniors. And then 12 months ago, that sort of turned around, and every race meeting, they have whole race meetings just that focus on the juniors. We had a junior challenge where we invite drivers from Mildura, Mount Gambier up, and that was exciting. And in the last 3 months, a lot of those juniors have now become seniors. So we've got this big drop in junior numbers, like overnight, but huge increase in the senior ranks. Which is where these come and try days will attract new people in who can maybe have an easier time with less competition. Yeah.
CIK karting is a very, very popular series at the moment, and it's completed its championship for 2004. How can you see that playing a role in what the AKA does in the future?
It's probably not one of my favourite subjects in that it's not popular and it's not huge and it doesn't go anywhere.
Yeah.
And it absorbs a lot of effort.
Yeah.
And that's fine. It's the top end of the sport and takes a long time for a person to get there. But it does involve greater effort than any kind of karting the average person experiences. So we need to focus on what we can do locally, not necessarily the top end championship level.
Yeah, for sure.
Now, referred to a bit tonight about a common try day that you are organising for the South Australian public, I guess, to come out and have a go. Tell us a bit about this.
We organise them every few months, and people who've never had a drive in a go-kart may be interested in the sport. The association organises a day where we can put them in a kart for their first drive. They get a bit of instruction, they can learn what goes, they have a few laps around the track, and it's all in a controlled situation, so it's very good.
Now the number's just on the screen right now, which is 0409 674 200. Now it's $5. That's what we have to pay to go out and have a try. So I think it'd be very interesting just to go out. If you want to get into motorsport, it's definitely a great place to start.
Yeah, it's much easier for young people to learn. A kart is a pretty simple machine compared to a car, and dads learn so much so quickly. Yeah.
Of course, November 7, 6 p.m. to 10 p.m. That number again on your screen right now, 0409 674 200, the number to get in touch with the relevant people so you can jump in a kart and bash out some laps. Should be good fun.
Oh, it would be. I mean, we have to get it there, I think. What do you reckon?
Oh, yeah?
Yeah, you against me? Yeah, let's go.
I know you'd be up for it. Karting as a whole, where is it going in the next 10 years, next 5 years, from your point of view?
A lot of people keep saying, where is it going? And it doesn't really have to go anywhere. I think outsiders miss the point that karting is a feeder category. It's an amateur category, and as long as karting is running and healthy, the people who are involved can enjoy it. But karting is not meant to be the top sport of the world. It never was. And on that basis, we teach a lot of people how to race and how to drive. We teach a lot of young mechanics, people who move up into supercar teams and Formula One teams. There's all sorts of mechanics come from there. They've learnt the basics. And karting has always been strong, sometimes stronger than others, but it's never disappeared off the map, but it's never made great names for itself either, when probably it should promote itself better, because we are responsible for creating the basis for everything else.
And very quickly for yourself, what's up for you in the next couple of race meetings?
Not a lot. I'm just too busy helping everyone else. With this state championship coming up, I think it's November 12 and 13.
Yep.
That'll be a huge meeting, a lot to organise, a lot of interstaters coming, and very good drivers, so it should be very exciting.
Looking forward to it. Well, Ian, thanks very much for coming into the show tonight. Appreciate your time, and best of luck with the vice presidency.
Thank you very much.
There's Ian Williams from the AKA joining us in the studio on Talk TV to chat a bit about the state of play in karting at the moment. There's the number on your screen again if you'd like to have a shot at karting, 0409 674 200, November the 7th between 6 and 10 p.m.
Yes, very exciting. Go out and have a go, especially you females. Come on, we're going to get some more female numbers in there, so go out and have a go.
Do it, she said.
Yeah,
she
listen
knows
to
what
me,
she's talking about.
goddammit.
We thank Ian for coming into the show tonight, and we'll continue, of course, to feature everything that's going on in karting in this state on Talk TV. And we've already covered a fair bit this season. But we've got plenty more coming up on tonight's show. After the break, we're going to take a look at our A to Z of Motorsport, which is T for Testing. And we're also going to take a look behind the scenes at the launch of the 2004 South Australian 360 Speedway Championship, which is an exciting thing happening this summer. All that and more coming up after the break. It's Talk TV Motorsport for your Friday night.
Talk TV.
Motorsport for your Friday night, and we've still got a very big show to go. Just some of the exciting images from 2004 so far.
Just a few exciting images, but look, we've got plenty more to come for the last one of the show. We've got a massive show, I'm going to say it again, massive show at the last one. So
say it one more time, just to be perfect.
Massive.
Lots more to come. We've still got our A to Z of Motorsport, T this week for testing. We're also going to take a look back at the Lexmark Indy 300 and run through some results from what was a entirely unpredictable and exciting champ car race.
And let's not forget the last round of the Formula One Grand Prix. So it's finally finished, but hey,
Unreal.
It's motorsport.
Well, last weekend we attended the launch of the 2004 360 Sprint Car Championships. Yes, the dirt trackers are back on the Speedway, and we were at the launch at Revolution Racegear down on Main North Road to take a look.
Good evening and welcome to the launch of the Revolution Racegear Speedway City 360 Sprint Car Series to be held this year at Speedway City, Virginia. This year's series proves promising to be better than last. We've got more cars this year, we've got additional sponsorship, and everything's coming along well. The season will be kicking off on November the 6th in conjunction with the Adelaide Australian Sprint Car Masters to be held once again at Speedway City. This year we have 5 rounds of the series. 5 rounds all being held there, and we're hoping to have in excess of 10 to maybe 15 cars per round. The series is a stepping stone from last year and we're continuing to grow. Thanks for coming. We're joined by South Australian Speedway City 360 Series champion Dennis Burford. Dennis, you've been a part of the 360 movement now for quite some time. What is it that motivates you about this division?
Yeah, 3 years now, Paris, we've been in the 360s, and what I love about it is the fact that I think we're all pretty even. We have a various number of winners on the night, and the rules are such that we're all got basically the same engine, and the man that sets it up best on the night can come out the winner. But it's it's really competitive, and the guys in it are fantastic. It's really good fun.
Dennis, you've been around the class for a long time, and now, of course, your son Michael will be moving into his 3rd year. The father-son rivalry on the track, is it more of a hindrance or a help at times?
Oh, no. I mean, it's probably a help because we can share setup information. We don't give away to each other. I mean, I just treat Michael like any other competitor out there. If he leaves a gap, I'll get in there, and vice versa.
Dennis, for people that may be looking to step into the 360 division, what would be the best way for them to make first contact with the Speedway organisation to go about purchasing one of these machines?
Yeah, well, I think I don't mind talking to anyone if they want to give me a call. I'm only too happy to talk to people to try and point them into the right direction. Or we have another 3 guys that are on the 3 City subcommittee as well. They're only too willing to help as well. So. I think cost-wise, they're very good value for the money you spend. They'll certainly get your attention. I mean, they've got 600 horsepower sitting under here, and they're very, very fast machines, and they're not going to send you broke running one of them.
We're joined with Revolution Racegear Estate Manager Chris McCarthy. Chris, Revolution Racegear have been a part of Speedway for quite some time in South Australia. How did you become involved?
Well, Speedway has always been a very important part of our program. We just feel it's something we need to be involved in to foster the Speedway as much as we can. We get a lot of customers are Speedway orientated people, and it's a sport I enjoy personally myself.
Chris, you've been coming now to Speedway City for quite a long time as a VIP guest and of course a sponsor of the venue. How did you guys become involved in targeting 360 sprint cars for a series?
Well, I've been watching them for quite some time now, and I can see it's a class that is certainly growing at a very rapid rate. In fact, I've got two friends who are now involved personally in the 360s as well. So I thought it was a logical progression to move into sponsorship of the 360s.
Fantastic. Also, just one last question. The equipment of the race cars have come a long way over the recent years. Revolution Racegear being a leader in the marketplace for safety gear, what have Revolution Racegear done to keep in trend with the progression of the sprint cars?
Well, I think one of the most important items we've added to our range is the HANS safety device. HANS stands for head and neck safety, and that goes on the shoulders of the drivers to hold their heads in place in case of an accident. It attaches to their helmet and stops any serious neck or back injuries. So I feel that's been one of the best things we've introduced into the market for many, many years.
Chris McCarthy, thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
So there you have it, all the action from the launch of the 2004 SA 360 Sprint Car Championship. The action on the dirt kicks off fairly shortly at Speedway City in Virginia.
That was a familiar face on there. Dennis Burford actually came in with his son Michael earlier this year, and it's very exciting now. Actually, their season is coming up, and being able to apply what they said to us back then. So good luck to both Dennis and Michael for the series.
And well done to our intrepid roving Speedway reporter Paris Charles for filing that story with us. Moving on, it's time to get into our A to Z of motorsport for this week. We're up to T, and it's for testing, something that Formula One teams do a whole lot of.
Testing plays a huge role, and let's have a look at our A to Z for testing.
Motor racing is an ever-evolving sport. Throughout the years, it has become more and more technically demanding. To continue or keep up with such demands, teams must consistently test their vehicle's performance, forever looking of ways to finding that extra tenth of a second. Talk TV's A to Z for this week is therefore T for testing. Testing is carried out both indoors and at testing tracks. Much of the testing work in the higher level categories of motorsport, such as Formula One, is conducted within the factory and wind tunnel facilities. It's here that systematic testing is focused on improving every major component and structure of the vehicle. Testing then steps out into the track, where a real driver gets behind the wheel and helps gauge the performance of the vehicle to ultimately determine whether the changes have been effective and what needs to be improved further. The second part of this process is important, as not every car that looks good on paper is going to be a race winner on the track. Generally, race components and aerodynamics can be perfected in the workshop using the wind tunnel and computers to obtain aero data. A host of other instruments to increase the strength and decrease the weight of other working components are also used. But the real test on the cars is when they are placed in the real physical environment of the racetrack and in the hands of the driver. With such an advantage to be gained through testing in motorsport, many categories have strict limits on how much can be done, including our own touring car category, the V8 supercars. This has been particularly drawn to attention recently over allegations that one V8 supercar operation conducted non-scheduled tests away from their nominated test facility. This brings big penalties not just in V8 supercars, but other categories like champ cars, which we witnessed at the Gold Coast last weekend. The whole aim of test limits and open test days are to keep teams of varied budgets closer in development and to keep testing honest and open. From the minute teams or individuals arrive at the track for testing, they are looking at track conditions and already making predictions about what times and performance the track might produce. With components perfected in the workshop, it's time to work with variables like chassis setup and tyres to find the best combinations for speed and consistency. This is done by two key feedback processes, data acquisition and driver response. They're both important because a setup that is fast but is difficult to drive will be inconsistent and could cause a retirement in a race situation. Data acquisition won't tell you when your car is pushing at the front or changing characteristics mid-corner. Starting at go-karting, testing takes place privately at the grassroots level and is focused on chassis development, given that it is such a simple and restricted formula. Karters might use data logging equipment to look at speed and revs over time to compare braking points, kart speed and engine speed between laps. At the upper echelons of motorsport, data logging helps technicians with car setup further, providing many more inputs such as four-corner ride heights, throttle and brake movement, steering movement, as well as the usual speed and rev comparisons. Here, data isn't just collected for the teams and driver benefits either. It is also provided to tyre and engine suppliers by the team so that they can provide them with an even better product as the season continues. All in all, testing is more than just practice, it's perfection. Perfection not only of a race line, but the fundamental components and setup that push a driver to fast laps and race victories. We'll do some more testing of Talk TV's A to Z of Motorsport at the same time next week. So there you go, one of the key things in motorsport preparation for a race meeting, Talk TV's A to Z of Motorsport T4 testing. And when you look at Formula One, especially Ferrari, who have their own personal or private test track, when they're not racing, they're out there 5 days a week, pounding round and round that track, learning about their cars and new developments.
Well, exactly, and that's the only way you can do, and that's the only way you can improve is to go out and test. And you see every week that all the Formula One cars are usually at the same track and they're all testing, as you said, 5 days a week, so it's a lot of work goes into it.
And it's a pretty hot topic at the moment about cutting down the number of days involved in testing. We'll take a break on Talk TV, come back with reviews and previews on the other side of this break.
TV, that's right, it's motorsport for your Friday night.
And hasn't it been a busy weekend in motorsport? We've had two major world events going on around us, with the Lexmark Indy 300 Carnival up on the Gold Coast and the final round of the World Formula One Championship over at Interlagos at Brazil. So much going on, so much to talk about as we get into our reviews and take a look back at the week it was in the world of motorsport. And up on the Gold Coast, nice and sunny weather for the most part. The V8 supercars brought into action for their third to last round of 2004. Lots of drivers up there with a bit of a hangover from Mount Panorama Bathurst. One of them that didn't have a hangover though was the Stone Brothers racing car of Marcus Ambrose and the Kmart car of Greg Murphy. We'll take a look at some results from race 1, the V8 supercars.
Marcus Ambrose came home in first for Stone Brothers Racing, with Greg Murphy in second, Todd Kelly for HRT in third, Craig Lowndes in fourth, Jason Bargwanna in fifth, Simon Wills fantastic for Team Dynamic in sixth, Jason Bright in seventh, Max Wilson in 8th, Jason Richards in 9th, fantastic for him. He didn't qualify in the top 10, but he pushed his way in. And Cameron McConville also did the same thing in 10th position. They both are quite a bit out of the top 20, I think, and they came back into the top 10, which is fantastic.
Well, there's some good performers in these races that haven't been up in the race result sheets for a while this season. Simon Wills amongst them, 5th in race 2. Murphy took the win from Ambrose. Todd Kelly was next, then Jason Barguana, Simon Wills. Maxie Wilson, he had a fantastic weekend for Triple Eight and Team Better Electrical. Cam McConville next, he had a good one. As did Paul Renisic. Jason Richards had a pair of night places. And continuing their good form of late was Stephen Johnson for Shell Helix Racing.
And for Simon Wills and Team Dynamic, that was their best ever round result for the team. So it was fantastic for them, and considering that they have been around for a while now, and hopefully with Dodo coming on board, they can get up and get some more results.
It's coming at the right time, isn't it? They're putting what they've had the last couple of months behind them, and they're starting to move forward, and full credit to them. But the V8 Supercars and the Champ Cars were sharing equal billing on the concrete canyon that is the Gold Coast track. And the Champ Cars turned on a fantastic show like they always did. 19 cars, and boosted by the addition of Dave Bernard driving in the WPS Walker Racing Reynard. It was a great race filled with drama, controversy, and there was all sorts of pit stop strategies going on. A couple of key contenders, but this race really heightened the championship battle. We'll take a look at some results for you now. Round 13 of the Champ Car World Series, powered by Ford and presented by Bridgestone. Up on the streets of Surfers Paradise, Bruno Junqueira striking back in the championship, taking the race victory.
Sebastian Bourdais, both the teammate of Bruno Junqueira and current championship leader, was home in second. Mario Dominguez in third. Paul Tracy in fourth. Ryan Hunter-Ray in fifth. AJ Almendinger, the rookie, in sixth. Actually took out the rookie of the year because of that fantastic effort. David Bernard, another rookie, Australian, fantastic in seventh. Justin Wilson in eighth. He was the guy that was runner up to AJ Almendinger for the rookie. And Guy Smith in ninth. And Nelson Philippe, look at that, the last four, all rookies.
Yeah, Nelson Philippe had a good run in 10th place for the MyJack Conquest team, as did Guy Smith for Rocket Sports. Good run there, and Justin Wilson bouncing back after a couple of tough rounds. Dave Bernard drove really well and was watching the lap timing monitor in the media centre, and he was pounding out some lap times that were quicker than Junqueira and Bourdais for a part of that race in the middle stage when they were trying to pan out for strategy. So well done to Dave Bernard. He proved his worth and got himself an additional year with WPS in the V8 Supercars, and there's been some Champ Car drivers after Indy on the weekend calling for Bezzy to perhaps jump in a Champ Car next year. It won't happen, but he's proved himself in the eyes of his rivals. Great weekend though, terrific atmosphere up there, 309,000 people over 4 days. And those Champ Cars are the best sounding things in real life. Absolutely terrific.
I'm very jealous. But I was not going to go back to V8s with Jason Bright's incident. The car itself is a write-off, so there's no way they can salvage it. It's got hundreds of thousands of dollars damage, and it's not worth going back. So they're actually going to get, I think they're going to build up a spare chassis, which is the hybrid VY Commodore, which is campaigned, I think, for the first 9 rounds by Paul Will this year. So they're going to go back and which is actually formerly Bright's VX. They're going to go back, redo that up, and try and get him out there for Simmons Plain, which is not too far away. So. It's
not tough luck for Bridie. That was a big crash, huge crash, and a bit of concern at the track. Also got to touch on a crash in the Champ Car race very quickly. Patrick Carpentier had a coming together with Roberto Gonzalez. Wasn't anybody's fault. His front wing actually failed on the Forsyth racing car. Had a big crash.
What I understand is actually the wing was actually nudged off earlier on in the race, and they left it on there, and it was still wobbling. So I guess that was it's kind of a lose-lose situation, I guess.
I actually had a chance to catch up with their team manager, Neil Mickle, right after the race, and he said, yeah, look, it was a calculated risk leaving it on. We didn't want to lose track position because they were running in the top 3.
And don't forget, Patrick Carpentier was still trying to go. He was actually second in the championship, or third, in the championship. So he's still trying to fight for his position. But as far as we know, he's fine. He's okay.
It was a big shunt, hit the tyre barrier to about 150 k's an hour and bounced over it. He was taken to the Gold Coast Hospital, released the day afterwards. Bit of bruising. He had a bit of concussion, but he's fine. He will race at Mexico in a week's time.
And I think that leads on perfectly to Formula 1 with Michael Schumacher early in the weekend actually having a massive accident also.
Yeah, big crash by Michael, and his last part of the season after he wrapped up the championship hasn't been fantastic, but it's been great for a couple of other drivers who have managed to score wins and have actually made this season look pretty respectable. We've ended up with 5 different race winners at the end of this year, but the results for the Brazilian Formula 1 Grand Prix last round of the year, it's hard to believe it's all over, but one Pablo Montoya took the win, their first one for Williams this year. Kimi Räikkönen was second, Barrichello was third, Fernando Alonso fourth, Ralphie Schumacher, his last race for Williams, in 5th place.
Takuma Sato in 6th. Michael Schumacher, Ferrari, is quite far down there in 7th. Philippe Massa in 8th, Giancarlo Fisichella in 9th, and Jacques Villeneuve in 10th.
Yeah, tough run for Jack. Didn't manage to score any points for Renault in his 3-race stint with them, although he was much better at Sao Paulo, Interlagos at Brazil, than he was in the last couple of races. That rivalry at the top between Raikkonen and Montoya, as we mentioned before in the show, came out side by side of the pits. It's going to be tantalising for next year, that team. Take a look at some World Drivers' Championship points. Michael Schumacher, of course, the world champion after 17 rounds. Rubens Barrichello in 2nd, Jenson Button in 3rd for BAR. Fernando Alonso was 4th, and Montoya truly got home in 6th place in the World Championship thanks to his win at Monaco. Raikkonen a winner this season as well. Takuma Sato, Ralphie Schumacher in 9th, and David Coulthard.
Michael Schumacher actually won 13 of the 18 rounds this year and was on the podium 15 times and collected, as you can see, 148 points, which was amazing, and that was the 7th Drivers' Title Championship for the Germans, so fantastic for him.
The season stats look a bit better than perhaps indicated. Michael Schumacher, of course, won races, as did Barrichello, Montoya, Trulli as well, and Kimi Räikkönen. The Constructors' Championship, Ferrari benefit in the end, more than double the points of BAR, who got home to a brilliant 2nd position, held off Renault in 3rd. Williams got home for 4th in the Constructors' season, and McLaren were 5th.
Now, just actually looking at the Constructors' Championship, BAR came in 2003, they finished in 5th position, and they came up to 2nd this year, which is fantastic for them. Renault also moved up from 4th to 3rd, with Williams, the big loser, going from 2nd to 4th, 2nd in 2003 to 4th in 2004, with actually, and same with actually McLaren, they were in 3rd in 2003, 5th in 2004, and with actually, interestingly enough, Sauber, Jaguar, Toyota Jordan and Minardi actually finished in the same positions they did last year, so it's very interesting.
Good to see Jaguar get home ahead of Toyota. That was their aim in the last couple of races, and neither scored points in the last few Grands Prix, but Jaguar, 7th place in the championship. Not a bad return, probably not what they wanted, of course, for Mark Webber, but it puts them in good stead for a potential buyout, which is looking like it'll happen within the next week or so. So hopefully that team in some way, shape or form will be back on the grid.
And it was actually from the race on the weekend, Jenson Button, it was an unfortunate race for him. He actually blew the engine very, very early on in the piece, so it was very disappointing for him. However, Takuma Sato was able to salvage something from BAR in 6th position, so it was okay, I guess.
Nice long look at the constructors table there for you. So that's how Formula 1 2004 plays out. 5 different winners in the end, I guess, make it look a bit better than it really was. But, gee, Michael Schumacher dominated this year and, of course, won the championship at Spa. But there were some highlights. Jarno Trulli's win at Monaco stands out. Race for me of the year was Belgium, where Kimi Räikkönen took his win of the season. Terrific.
You just like when Michael Schumacher does it win, don't you?
I think most people are feeling that way at the moment, to be honest.
I think some of the positives for me was actually Takuma Sato. I mean, he's come up and he's had a very inconsistent year. He's actually always tried to get up to 2nd position. He's slowly getting up the order, or an engine blew or something like that. But he's a definite name to look out for in the future, and I look forward to seeing how he goes next year.
Takuma is signed with BAR for season 2005. It's going to be a great one. Can't wait to see Montoya and Kimi Räikkönen together at McLaren. Mercedes, it makes you think of the old Senna and Prost days. It's going to be good. So that's Formula 1 2004 all wrapped up. One World Championship that isn't all wrapped up is the World Rally Championship, and they're in Spain this weekend for their penultimate round of the 2004 season. Sebastian Loeb has already wrapped up the championship, but there's still a bit to play for as other teams and drivers try and get a win to finish the season. Form driver is Peter Solberg, though. He won 3 rallies in a row before France. He's looking in good form. Well,
the race at Catalonia is going to be a bit different, actually. It's actually a lot wider. The same sort of setup as Corsica. I mean, it's smooth, fast asphalt, but Catalonia's actually got quite wide tracks, and it's actually very interesting. You'll see a lot of the drivers cutting a lot more than they normally will when they take the racing apex and trying to cut it out a bit more. So it's going to be interesting, and a lot of people do come unstuck on this course simply because it's bigger, so they go for more and they lose it. But look, again, you're going to have to look at Sebastian Loeb. You'd hope Peter Solberg can come back. I mean, it was quite disappointing. He was coming back from the resurgence, and one round he doesn't go well, and there goes championship. But look, you've still got 2nd, 3rd still to go, and the Constructors' Championship title still is a bit to play around with. So interesting to see how it all pans out.
There is one driver, though, that's in my books is going to win it purely on spirit from his home fans. Carlos Sainz will be completing his last rally at Spain. He has announced that he will be taking a step back to spend more time with his family in season 2005. He will not be running with the Citroën team. It's his best shot to win at home. He's called El Matador at home, and the Spanish fans come out in their thousands to support Carlos Sainz, who's a world champion, won 25 rallies, equal with Colin McRae and Tommy Mäkinen, and absolutely brilliant. I think Carlos will win it for his last drive at home before the series heads down under to Perth.
It's going to be an amazing rally. I mean, I think the longest stage is something like 35 kilometres long. I mean, that's huge. And then you've got the shortest at 5 kilometres. So it'll be interesting to see how well they do, go about the rally. But as you said, with the rally drivers with experience, probably the ones that are going to be quite up the order this weekend. It's
going to be a good one. The World Rally Championship concludes in Perth in November. Looking forward to that, the final round of the WRC. It's been an exceptional year once again, but one, of course, by Sebastian Loeb for Citroën. Moving on, it's time to take a look at what's going to be a pretty big next couple of days in motorsport, as it always is, as we take the Talk TV Motorsport Diary down from the shelf and have a look through it and see what is going on this weekend.
I was waiting for the dusted off comment.
It's been dusted enough.
Well, the AIR Extreme Power Fest 2004, Adelaide International Raceway. It's $20 for adults, and under 15s are only $5.
Good to see IAR being used for something, actually, and that should be a good event to get out to. Just out there on Port Wakefield Road near Speedway City in Virginia. Speaking of Speedway, the Sprintcar Cup at Murray Bridge Speedway includes Formula 500, Super Sedans, Street Stocks, Sidecars, Modified Production V6 Sprints. Racing starts at 7 p.m. that night. Families $35, adults $15, children just $3 to get in. Kennett Road, it's just off the main street as you come into Murray Bridge, off the first exit from Murray Bridge on the freeway there. Go down and have a look. It's the first real taste for Speedway in 2004, and Murray Bridge is a great place to go watch it.
The Extreme Horsepower Super Show, Royal Adelaide Showground at Wayville. Now, it's got street and race cars, motorbikes, boats, trucks, and dyno demonstrations. I love the dyno demonstrations. They're fantastic. And it's on Saturday and Sunday. Prices are there, and it's actually a really interesting expo to go to.
Nothing beats a champ car sitting there revving. It's awesome. I just thought it up thinking dinos. It's great. That's going to be a good one to get to, the Royal Extreme Horsepower Super Show at the Royal
Adelaide. I think there's a bit for everyone there. You've got your boats, you've got your motorbikes, you've got everything. It's fantastic.
The KCF Rally Sport Short Course Round 3, the Jimmer State Forest up in Queensland. I probably flew over that on my way to the Gold Coast, but Queensland's a nice place of the year this time of year, I can tell you that. It's pretty sunny.
And the Sandown Motorsport Sprint, Sandown International Raceway on Saturday.
I actually believe that event is being run as part of the Spring Carnival, with the whole Melbourne Cup thing coming up in a week's time or so. Looking forward to that. Go karting at the Festival State Cup Round 5, the final for 2004 at Bolivar Raceway, Summer Road, Bolivar, again just off Port Wakefield Road. Get out and have a look.
Motorcarna at the Mitsubishi Staff Car Park, Lonsdale Sheriff's Road. We've had Motorcarna on the show quite a bit this year, so now you can go out and have a look. You know all about the different styles you need to do, and the different, categories and etc. So you can go out and have a look.
The Supermoto World Championship Round 5, the home of the 2004 Olympic Games, Athens in Greece. Plenty of history there, not so much in motorsport, I don't think, but you never know what they did back in the ancient times. I don't think ancient Greeks got involved in supermoto racing.
Yeah, never know.
Yes, one wonders. Well, that brings us to the close for another episode of Talk TV, and it's been a good show, a massive show in your words. And
it has been. I'm not going to say it again.
It's good to be back, though.
It is, and I'm so glad you're back. It's great.
Shucks.
No, it's not the same with that. I think everyone would agree. It's a bit hard me talking to myself for myself only.
But you do it so well.
Oh, shush, don't pay me out. Goddamn, I did like you for a second there.
So much for that. That's it for the show. On behalf of the entire crew, thank you for joining us. We'll catch you again at the same time next week.
See you later.